Hi everyone, I'm Mia, and I am known as the Awakened Entrepreneur.
And I'm Michael, and we are business coaches that heal what's really stopping people so that they can authentically live their fullest potential.
And we had a great question. Big shout out to Lana who asked this question. What was your biggest challenge as a couple when it comes to communication, and how did you overcome it? I love this question, Lana.
Yeah, really awesome.
It's freaking awesome. The first thing I want to say, and then we'll let Michael give his perspective as well. But I love the quote by George Bernard Shaw, who said, "The single biggest illusion is that communication is actually taking place." Oh my gosh. Don't you think that is the biggest thing that is an aha, right? And what I have found in my direct experience personally and professionally is that when we have these core traumas that are running in the background of our mind, we don't even know they're running. And so we have a perspective of what a relationship should be or shouldn't be. And so it's really about dissecting what are the misunderstandings, misconceptions that we have about relationships, and then to be able to unpack this. I'm curious, Michael, how would you answer that question as what is your biggest challenge when it comes to communication, and how did you overcome it?
Well, my biggest challenge was what I said in the previous video about being stuck on being right. What the challenge was that I had to be right. And so there is no right perspective. If you really get it, that everybody feels like they're right in their perspective. And so even if you have a disagreement, it's really how we overcome it is that I have to really see whatever Mia sees a situation or anyone sees as a situation that I have a relationship with, because all business is just relationships, is that they have a perspective. And I can really be with that perspective. It's in seeing myself as fully capable of being with whatever Mia sees, myself, the world, whatever she's sharing, and really of being able to hear her fully. And Mia, I'll ask you, when I hear you fully, what's that like for you?
It's awesome, right? The fundamentals of aligned relationship is really about each person feeling seen and heard, like Michael's saying, feeling like it's okay to express emotions, that it's safe to express emotions, that it's okay and feels safe to share ideas. We don't have to agree. Michael, do we agree on everything?
Only when you agree with me. Kidding. No,
right? We don't agree on everything, and you don't have to. I used to think, one of the misperceptions and misunderstandings I used to have is I thought in order for us to have an incredible relationship, I needed someone to agree with me. Until I had that relationship and that person agreed with everything I said. And after a week of that, I couldn't stand it. I was like, do you have an opinion? So how would you say we overcame this? Now we have different perspectives. We come from different backgrounds. We have different core traumas. How do we overcome this? So when each person feels seen and heard, when each person gets acknowledged for expressing.
Something I said in the previous video again is I have to choose Mia as the person I'm choosing. That has nothing to do with this being over here. It has to do with my choice. If I say I choose you, then I choose you exactly the way you are, exactly the way she's not. And so that comes with all of her perspectives, all of her past, everything that she is. And when I choose her as fully that, then I can totally embrace that, whatever that is. And in behind that, it's taking full responsibility for my choices.
Absolutely. And then inside of our methodology, we actually teach a framework on how to have successful conversations and communication so that each person feels seen and heard, each person feels like they can express themselves. And then inside of that, what it ends up doing is it creates this loving connection to be fully present, really, really present, which allows us then to align our goals and our dreams together, and as well as having massive, wonderful passion. Anything you want to add to that?
Follow us for more. We can only do so many things on this video, so it's really awesome, but we have lots of different ways we can help you be successful in communication.
Someone asked, how do you manage the never-ending task of decision-making each and every day for your family and your business and still feel vulnerable to ask for help from your husband or partner as a wife, not a CEO? This is a great question. So the question is inside of how do I still feel vulnerable being able to ask for support from my partner, being his partner or wife rather than a CEO? I love that question so much because I actually don't see being the CEO and being his partner as something that's separate.
Right.
right? What's your
100%.
perspective of that?
So it's inside of the claiming of who we are from who we're not, and then knowing how to operate as this. As this, I think a lot of people struggle that they have to go into a role someplace else, but when you really authentically are living in alignment with who you really are, you're not, as Mia said, separating yourself as the role of the CEO and the role of partner or wife or husband, whatever you are. And then you can be complete in wherever you are in asking for what you need authentically, in alignment, passionately, purposefully, and that's what really works.
I totally agree. I think that in our society, there is so many people teaching boundaries and like you have to be one way and then like this work-life balance. And I think it really just causes a lot more confusion than just being your authentic self, no matter where you are. Right?
Yeah,
that's what I would
100%.
say. Awesome. Did you want to add anything on that before I go to the next question?
I mean, that's what we do and help people do in our programs, just to help them really find that who they really are and really live that way. So once you have that, you have great power.
So freaking true.
Yeah. And then when you have that power, then you can ask for whatever you want from whomever you want with like alignment, authenticity, respecting who that person is and feeling into their world as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so I have a question for Michael.
Ooh.
Great question. Okay, now inside of this question comes in for Michael. How do you find your original core trauma? I don't remember my childhood, anything from 0 to 8.
So I really get that, first of all, and a lot of people come to us with that feeling like I had a pretty good childhood. How do I go back? And the answer really is in the feeling mind versus the thinking mind. Some people call it the conscious or the unconscious mind. When the event happened, we only really had an unconscious mind. And so it's learning to access that place and having the right guide to help you get back to that place, because trying to get there yourself is kind of like trying to do your own heart surgery. And we don't suggest you try that at home. Because it really isn't accessing a place that you're not familiar with accessing, for one, and for two, in the core trauma itself, you said, I can never feel like this again. So the feelings come up to block it. So it's really in learning to access that place, which we guide people to do. So it's really, really, really beautiful. Great question.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add to it, which is that most people don't think they even have a core trauma. So even if, Julie, thank you so much for your question, because you actually can feel that you have one. I just want to let people know that those who can't, they don't even think they have one. What would you say to that? Let's have you answer that, Michael. For the people that they don't even think they have a core trauma.
Well, everybody has a core trauma, and to understand that, we'd have to talk about what trauma is. And trauma is an event where the child feels stuck. They feel helpless. They feel alone in the pain. So it can be anything. It doesn't have to be what everybody would call traumas, like abuse, neglect, abandonment, all sorts of things that anyone would call like traumatic. It can be a situation where they just didn't know how to process what they were feeling. And a lot of people come with traumas that are like the first time they were left in a crib to cry out alone, to be I had one recently where somebody was left in the backyard. Now, mom and dad may have just run inside to go get something, but they felt like it was an eternity. And they felt like they couldn't get up because they were a baby, and they were stuck there, and they thought they were going to die. And they thought that the people that loved them the most, their mother and father, had left them. It was just a perception, but that was really traumatic for that individual.
Yeah, I think that's so important to know, because the child doesn't have a trauma because they felt hurt or got hurt. How many times did we fall down, scrape our knee? The child has a trauma because they felt alone in the hurt. So it's really beautiful, really great question. Okay, the next question is, Michael, is there only one original core trauma?
Yes.
I feel like I have had, this is her question, she's like, I feel like I have a lot of stories that are blocking me from moving forward.
Oh, totally. And we just, with all compassion in my heart to all of your hearts, like we've had people that have been through like a lifetime of like events that were really, really intense and yes, traumatic. Not being dark here, but rapes. They've witnessed murders, all sorts of things that no human being should ever experience. So the answer to the question is there only one original core trauma? Yes, absolutely. All of the other events wind up being reflections of that energy that got trapped in the original core trauma. And the original core trauma, again, is not the event itself. It's actually the experience of feeling all alone in your pain and then separating yourself from the world and making decisions that make you operate in a wholly different way of being. It's when we break or separate from our true self and we become something else to survive life. That's the real trauma.
It's so true. So beautiful. Another question that came in, is it shameful for me as a therapist to have someone help me overcome my core trauma? I help others with this, but I'm actually not living it.
Beautiful question.
I
really,
love this.
first I want to honor the humility it takes to come forth and ask that question. It doesn't diminish your expertise, all the training you've done, all the help you give other people. So it's really beautiful what you're asking. And when you're really authentic, all of you, I can go, okay, but I still have something that I'm dealing with, no matter how many people I help. It's like, good. So is it, shameful for you? No, totally not. We heal shame, like really, really get that. And it takes humility and vulnerability to, again, ask the question, but then to be able to come forth and go, okay, I need help. Put up my hand and say, I need help. And it's beautiful. So I would celebrate and praise yourself, going, yes, I want to do this. And I want to even go deeper so they can help my clients even more, is really a beautiful intention.
Absolutely.
Beautiful intention.
Absolutely. The thing I would add to it is there is a difference between knowing about trauma, knowing something, then a difference between living it as someone who has actually healed their own trauma. So it's no longer in the way, running in the background of your mind. And then there's a third level, which is teaching it. So it's knowing, living it, teaching it. Why I want to say that is there are many people who know about something but don't live it. So therefore, they can't truly go as deep or have an understanding as someone who's living this consistently day in and day out. Then there are those who are living it, right? And even if they're living it, they actually don't know how to teach it. There's such a thing as known as unconscious competent, right? Somebody who can actually just make a decision and go, hey, this is what you do. You just make a decision, you go all in. But then they're not brilliant at teaching how others can do that. Like, does that make sense? Does that make sense, Michael?
It does.
Is there anything you would add on that?
Well, there's we could do a whole segment on knowing, living, and then teaching, because a lot of people have knowing as what's required to teach. But if we can't live it, then it doesn't allow us to be, to go as deep as Mia said, or to really, 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 feel authentic when we're doing it. So, whereas when we can know, live, and then teach, we can really see what's there and really help people, on an even deeper level. So
that's beautiful. Thank you for adding that. I love that. Okay, you've got one from me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yes, and in the book, your book, Meant for More, Stop Secretly Struggling and Become a Force to be Reckoned with.
Yes.
This Mia asks Sue questions during their sessions together. So, Mia, talk about who is Sue?
I love that. And I'm so sorry for anyone who's been so confused. Because I didn't realize that it would confuse people. This, in the very beginning of the book, there's a quick little blurb that says, this is a book that I wish somebody had given me, right? I'm gonna be 55, a long, long, long time ago. It's the book that I wish somebody who had given me that I could have given my younger self. And so this book is not only a love letter to you all, but a love letter to my younger self, and having all of the questions that I wished I would have had. So Sue is really my younger self. Those are all the experiences I had, but I didn't want to be annoying to the reader saying little Mia said to big Mia said to little Mia. And so I am actually both Mia and Sue.
Yes.
I think there was a second question.
There is a second question.
Yeah.
And so now that we understand who Sue is, it's like, are the questions you are asking Sue also the method you use in your program?
Yeah, oh my gosh. No, those are not the questions that we actually use in our program. It doesn't mean that we can't ask some of those questions, but we have an exact methodology that we teach, a skill set, a real skill set that we help our clients learn, called the Aligned Intelligence Method. The only reason I didn't put it in the book is because it takes hand-holding to get people to really be able to learn the skill, like riding a bike, right? If you were to say like riding a bike, right? It's something that once you get the feel of it and you know exactly how to ride a bike, you never forget how to ride a bike. It's any skill like that. And so it required more hand-holding, which is why I didn't put it in the book, because I didn't want it to cause more confusion. Is there anything you would add to that, Michael, as to like why our programs go way deeper than just asking people questions.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, you can only go so deep, especially in a storyline. If every movie that was out there wanted to go as deep in every single character, we would all be watching that same movie for about 40 years. Right? Well, what Mia had available to go into, it's like, it is the foundational principles that are in the book, but what we do is we go way deep in what are those principles? How do you start to live them? How do you implement them? How do you actually, when you go out there and try to implement them and you succeed, how do you keep doing more of that? And if you go out there and you implement them and you don't succeed, how do you get the support you need so that you can really start going past your own blind spots and live the actual material? So yes, hand holding, and my analogy would be like, we could teach you tennis by going, hold the racket, hit the ball. That could go in a book and go, wow, that's amazing. And when you use your backhand, hit it this way and your forehand's this way. And then a real tennis pro would be able to help you know what kind of grips you need, what kind of, how to hold the racket in different positions to hit with different spin, and all of the facets that would be the hand holding that Mia's talking about would be inside of a really working with a tennis pro.
Yeah, no, I love that. Really great. Awesome. Okay, Michael, I have another question for you. Has there been people you couldn't heal?
Ooh, juicy. The answer is no, as long as the person is fully willing. Now, that may sound so simple, but it is so powerful. I was actually speaking to someone and coaching someone the other day, and I asked them, well, are you willing? And they were like, well, I really want this. And it's like, I really get that they want that. Like, everybody wants to have an incredible life, everybody. And I said, if I was at the base of a mountain with you, and I said, at the top of this mountain, there is so much gold that your greatest grandchildren will never have to worry about money again. But the path is going to be long and tumultuous and full of ice and slipperiness and rocks and cragged, and we may bleed and we may be sore, we may starve, and all the things that we may have to face up at this mountain. There's lions and tigers and bears. And that doesn't mean by being willing that you're going to be able to know that you're going to get through all those things, but being willing means, okay, I'm willing to face all that. And I'm willing to go up the path, and I want to get to the goal. And so in that is, when someone is that willing, there is nobody I've never been able to heal, and it always works every time. And we, in our healing portion of our programs, guarantee those results so that they actually have the experience, and we guarantee them, and nobody's ever asked for their money back. So
Exactly. I love that because it really, you gave that illustration. It really helps really have everybody be able to see, what does all in and open and willing really feel like? Like, all in means all in, right? So no matter what you're facing, you're just willing to face it. I just really loved your example.
even if it's terrifying,
Yeah.
we really get that it can be terrifying. Like, it really can be. Like, that path sounds pretty terrifying to me. I don't really want to go up that mountain, but I'm really willing to go all the way through to the goal. Absolutely.
But once they do it,
Yeah.
what really is it that then happens on the other side?
This may sound a little cliche, but it's really the mountain and the path was all an illusion.
Yes.
Like, and it really wasn't as big of a deal. When everybody's over what I call the other side of the fence, they look back and are like, oh, that fence wasn't that big a deal. But when I was looking from over here, oh my God, it seemed like that scary path up the mountain. But over here, it's sort of like, oh, that wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
But the only way to get over here is, again, in the willingness.
And what's really cool about that is going through it, they get to keep all the strengths that they got in overcoming it, and they let go of all the weaknesses. So it's really beautiful because it's not like they go, oh, that wasn't worth it. It was worth the journey. They just get to keep all of the strengths. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. Okay, for both of us. So the question is, what makes us different than other healers, right?
Yeah.
I've tried others and I feel better for about 24 hours or maybe up to 2 weeks. And then I'm right back where I started.
I like this one. I love this one. So, as a person that's gone through a lot of healing, I did so many different approaches. It's kind of funny looking back, and wonderful. Like, all of them are beautiful things. So this is not a diminishment of other healers, but many of the experiences I personally had were like, yeah, you feel amazing for, say, that 24 hours or so, or maybe a couple weeks, but then it's just all of a sudden you're back in the same patterns, stuck. So what there is, and that makes us very, very different, is that there's an entire methodology and tools that we give people to how to actually live what they experience in the healing. So that's so important. That is missing from most, if not almost all, other healing methodologies out there, is that there's no structure to like, oh, how do I succeed at this? How do I implement this? How do I live this? It's just like I've had like incredible experiences of oneness beyond words, and then the next day I'm going, oh wait, but I'm back to life.
Exactly.
And I don't know how to start living that. Well, this is what we give people, is a whole methodology and structure, and then the support.
Yes, we give 24/7 support on top of it. And I just want to back up with what you said. This is why most often things are being taught are just reframes. They're just getting you to think differently. Well, just think differently. Just reframe it. Or just go in meditation. I used to struggle, like I could never get this meditation thing down because I was like, but what happens when I come out of it? I can't stay in meditation 24 hours a day. Like what happens when Monday morning comes around? Like, how do I process that? You know? And so a lot of times people will ask us, do you do journaling? Are you gonna tell me to journal? No. Are you gonna tell me to just meditate? No. Are you gonna tell me to just rethink my mind or, you know, change my thoughts? No. We're not. This is all based on symptoms or using something as a coping mechanism. And what's really different about us is we actually don't teach coping mechanisms. We only get to the core root of everything that is stopping you. So I really love that question. It was a great one.
Yeah, and I want to add more in like however this lands. Like the feeling of getting to the core root of something is a lot of people talk about that, but we went to the root of the root of the roots. Not because that makes us special, because we were just two people that really kept going out there and looking and trying all the methodologies, me and her way, Michael and his way. And then we came together and we were like, well, what's missing in all of that? And there was this piece that's missing, which is a core wound that separates you from who you really are. That is the real trauma. That is the real trauma. And we solve that in what we're talking about, that methodology that helps you go through it. Because if we became aware of it, as Mia brilliantly always says, awareness is not enough to get a result. It just makes us aware. And that's why a lot of therapies and approaches don't work, because we just become aware of the problem or aware of the root cause. And many other methodologies will just try to reframe you on that and just give it a new meaning. And like, that doesn't work. So really, we came up with a methodology that not only gets us there, but clears it, heals it, so that you can start living authentically as the truth of who you really are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great question.
So Mia, how do you handle it when you're, I'm going to use the word partner, like husband, partner, we aren't married officially, we are life partners, also works for you, and you struggle to take ownership of your accomplishments because you are afraid that he or she will feel overshadowed? Really good question.
Yeah, I love that question. Thank you so much for asking it. The first thing that comes to my mind in answering this is, can you feel that feeling of not wanting to celebrate your own accomplishments and being concerned about the other person feeling overshadowed? Can you feel that there are two things at play? One is your own trauma, your own, whatever is stopping you and feeling like, no, I have to like be responsible for what other people think or feel about me, is always going to be outside there. And when the world actually works inside out, right? So to answer your question, the first thing is, I want to go back to like the example of being on an airplane. And when they say, please put on your oxygen mask first before that of a small child. The first thing that you want to do is be able to heal that core trauma so that you no longer think that it is your responsibility to actually create the relation, like have them feel a certain way. Now, that being said, there's an impact, right? So I'm not going to deny if somebody feels overshadowed. I'm happy to be in that conversation and acknowledge however they're feeling and support them in how to really find their power. But for myself, to answer your question as far as, we really celebrate wins. Like we believe in celebrating each other's accomplishments all the time. In fact, to a daily basis. Like every evening we'll sit down and we'll be like, okay, what's your top 3 wins of the day? And it's like, okay, he'll ask me, what's your top 3 wins of the day? And we just celebrate. Because the joy is really in the journey, right? Rather than hurrying up to try to get somewhere and then we never celebrate anything, it almost feels like, then what was all that for? That was the way I'd answer it. How would you answer that, Michael?
Cool. I would say that like I really get that you care about your partner in this question. Like it's beautiful that like if I felt like Mia was feeling overshadowed by whom I'm being in the business and all the accomplishments I have, and yet I'm not responsible for how she feels. So, but I can take responsibility for any impact that my behaviors or actions or even her perception of those things can be for her. So it's about being with that person and seeing, like, this is really the answer, seeing yourself as capable of going, okay, if he feels overshadowed or she feels overshadowed, then I can be with that and I can support them if they would like support, and helping them find their own power. Like that is what you're really standing for, that they have their own power, because we cannot save anybody. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. Great question. Love that so much. Okay, last question. This question comes in about asking for the keys to relationship. What do you think the keys to having an amazing relationship really are? I love this question so much. So the first thing I want to say about this is, you know, it feels like to me, in reflecting back, often in society, it's like we are looking for someone to grow old with, when the truth is, I think we actually are looking for someone to stay young with. That is going to be the first thing I need to say, because that really makes a huge difference. I feel like laughing and finding someone that won't take things so serious, is willing to do the inner work, is willing to take responsibility for, you know, each person taking their own responsibility for who they are and their own emotions, and then being willing to process those and really come together to create win-wins is incredible. So I want to say that. But the other thing I want to give you is that when we can go inward and we can look inside of what are the misunderstandings and misconceptions that we each have when it comes to relationships. Like, for the example is, like, I used to think all relationships had to be difficult. And so if you're someone who thinks that relationships have to be difficult, one of the best things that I would encourage you to do is actually go inward and look for, where do you often back away? Like, you want to look at your beliefs here. Where do you often conform or go into people pleasing? Where do you often avoid either altogether, whether or not, like, you know what someone's saying, or whether you're feeling like, you know, you have to say something or you have to retreat? And then where are you feeling like you either have to try to get someone against the other person or get others to rally with you? Anywhere you have a limiting belief when it comes to relationships is going to show up inside of your relationships, and you want to be able to dissect that and process those to clear them. Anything you would want to add on that?
So my keys would be, each person is 100% responsible. 100% responsible. It's not 50-50 for how the relationship is. And when each person can take responsibility for that, well, there is no stopping that relationship, because I am 100% responsible for what shows up in our space, so to speak. Like, it's a co-creation, and I'm responsible for me and for the results that I'm producing. If I irritate Mia or upset her or something like that, it's like, okay, I'm responsible. It's not her being something that was, say, what I used to do was, oh, they're too sensitive, or they're too this or too that, or they shouldn't be that way. It's being responsible is what gave me access to this incredible relationship. Because I remember when, right before I met Mia, I decided I'm responsible. I wasn't perfect at it. I wasn't a master at it. I just took 100% responsibility.
Awesome. So then I have to ask another question after that. So does having the most amazing relationship, do you have to be perfect?
Besides me, there's no one else perfect in the world. No, I'm just joking. Of course you don't, because I am far from perfect. Like, in fact, it's more in the willingness to be wrong that gives me the most incredible relationship. And the willingness not to stand on a position, which is the feeling of trying to be right all the time, is what gives me access to the most incredible relationship with this most incredible being that I'm with.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. We hope you enjoyed this amazing different episodes of Aligned Relationships. Give us your questions and comments below. We cannot wait to hear what you uncovered. What was your favorite thing about this? And what more, or what other questions do you have that you'd love for us to answer?
Yeah, be awesome.
Yay.
All right, guys.
Hey there, I'm Mia, and I'm known as the Awaken Entrepreneur. And this is my partner.
Dude, you screwed me up. So start over. Like you didn't say that in that thing. You were supposed to just say, I'm Mia and I'm the Awaken Entrepreneur. I'm going to go on Michael.
Hi everyone, I'm Mia and I'm known as the Awakened Entrepreneur and this is...
She did it again.